Today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting integers on the number line. So the first thing we need to do is fill out our table of contents with our I can statement. So today it is I can add and subtract integers on a number line. Okay, so make sure that's in your table of contents as well as at the top of your page. So the first thing we need to do is write a little note here. It says, how do I add or subtract integers on the number line? Good question. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place a dot on the first given number. So they're gonna give us a number and we're gonna place a dot on the number line for that number. So let's put that down. So place a dot on the first given number. And I'm going to put the hashtag for number again just to save my space because there's not much room to write in here. Well, then we're going to use the second number to determine the number of intervals we need to move left or right. Remember, intervals are those hills that we make on the number line. So let's write that part. Use the second number to determine the number of intervals and I'm going to put in parentheses hills because maybe that'll help you remember intervals are like our little hills that we make. You need to move left or right. So what does that even mean? Let's talk about that. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about adding and subtracting on a number line. We're going to be given a problem. So here's a problem here, and we're going to talk about how do we use this number line to help us determine the answer. Right now, we should definitely be using the number line because it's a good visual for us to understand how to find the answer. Later on, you'll hopefully be able to do this in your head and you won't be using the number line. But right now, the number line is such a great tool for us to use. So here we go. Let's do the adding first. I'm going to use my colored pencils here, and I'm going to do x plus a. X plus a. Now what that means is whenever you see letters being added or letters being subtracted or multiplied or divided, it means that we don't know what the number is. There's something going on there. That could be a 5, that could be a 3. We're not sure yet. And we're going to determine what it is. But in this problem, we're just using it as examples. So x, pretend like x is just a number and a is a number that we're using. We just don't know what those numbers are. What they're trying to tell us here is that any numbers that we are adding or subtracting, this is how we're going to find our answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is start at x on the number line. So I'm going to write this as a note. Start at x on the number line. So, like we said, place a dot at the first given number. So I'm going to put a dot at x. Now it says, from x, move to the right a intervals. From x move to the right a intervals or hills. Remember, those are our hills, intervals. So let's see what that looks like. So from the x, I am now going to move to the right however many times for A, but I don't know how many because remember A is kind of that unknown number. So I'm just gonna put that right now And we're gonna show that that is just how far we're moving for A, all right? And we're gonna practice these, so don't worry if it sounds a little confusing right now, that's A-okay. We're just getting those notes in and the steps so that when we come to the practice problems, we know exactly what we need to do. So let's do the second one, subtraction. So this time, it's gonna be x minus A. X minus A. Again, remember, these are just, where they give us the variables, the letters, variables, just because we don't know what the numbers are, and it basically means it could be any numbers that we're doing. This is the strategy that we're gonna do to figure it out. So we're gonna start at X on the number line again. Okay, so I'm gonna put a dot at X, just like it said up here. We're putting a dot at the first given number. The first one is X, so I'm putting a dot at X. From X, well, let's see, we moved to the right for adding. So what do you think we're gonna do this time? I hope that you're seeing, says, so start at X on the number line. From X, this time, we're gonna move to the left. A intervals. All right, so just like we did on this side for adding, we went right for adding, but for subtracting, we're going left, smaller. So I'm gonna put my line, okay? And so remember that this time, A is moving left. Okay, so let's give this a practice. Let's try some of these and see how we do. So on number 1, we've got -10 plus 8. So this is an addition problem, so I'm gonna be using my adding strategy. I'm gonna be moving to the right from the first number, however many intervals. So -10 is where I'm going to put my dot, because place the dot at the first given number. So find -10 on the number line. Now when we're adding, we're going right. That means we're going toward the 0, toward the positive side. Because remember, after 0 is a positive 1. So we're gonna go toward the positive side. We might already be on the positive side sometimes. That's A-okay. It just means we're getting bigger. So we're going to the right when we're adding. When we're subtracting, we're going to the left, which means we're getting smaller. So now we've got our dot at -10. The second step is to do however many intervals, or hills as I like to call them, to get to our answer. So we have to do 8 hills. So that's where we're gonna do from X, move to the right, A intervals. Here's our A, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I made 8 intervals. So my answer is -2. Okay, and now look, we're still on the negative side of 0, but we've gotten bigger. What that means is the closer you're getting to 0 on the negative side, the bigger the number. The further you get from 0 on the negative side, the smaller amount, okay? It's kind of backwards. It's weird. It's a strange thing to remember. So like think of it like you go into the cafeteria, okay? You're perfectly fine. You go to get your food and then you realize that, whoopsies, you forgot your money that day. So now, instead of having money in your pocket, you now owe them $2. -2 means that you're owing something. You have to bring $2 the next day to give to the cafeteria workers to pay to get you back to 0, which means you're perfect. You don't owe anyone anything and they don't owe you anything, okay? Let's try number 2, -7 minus 2. Oh my goodness, so this time we're doing a subtraction problem. We're subtracting, which means we're gonna go to the left. So again, the first thing we're gonna do is find our X on the number line. The first number is -7. So I'm gonna put a dot at -7. Now, I hope you're seeing you need to make your intervals 2 places to the left because it is a subtraction problem. So minus 2. So when we subtract 2, 1, 2. And so we are at negative 9. Now what this is saying is you were at 0. You went to the cafeteria, bought food. Uh-oh, you didn't have money. You owed them $7. Now you come the next day and you forget your money again. So you add on 2 more dollars that you owe them, which means you now owe them $9 instead of $7. So hopefully then tomorrow you bring your $9 so that you can get all the way back to 0 where you don't owe them anything and they don't owe you anything. Okay, so let's look at the practice page before we get going on that on our own. So you're gonna have all these problems to do. Okay, number 1, pretty simple. Number 2, pretty simple, but oh my goodness. Number 3, they're trying to trick you a little bit. What I want you to see with number 3 is that when you have a negative and a negative together, it's kind of a cool thing. You can put them together. So instead of having a minus and a minus, you bring that subtraction over, flip it, and make it a plus. And then this minus is gone. So really it's negative 6 plus 4. So whenever you see a minus and a minus next to each other, keep it in mind that you can bring it over and flip it and make it into a plus sign to bring them together. Opposite and opposite means addition when they're next to each other like that. Okay, so go ahead and try that practice.